have to say, I've only directed a couple things, but one of my directing experiences was with that. Well, two of them have been with you, actually. Yeah. But specifically, I'm talking about the show I did with Gaslight, Sunset Limited. And Adam is one of my best friends in the world, but I have to admit, I was really hesitant and nervous and apprehensive about reaching out to you about the role because it is a black role. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be that person. But what it ultimately came to is like, I loved the story, I loved the characters, I felt like it was important and needed to be told. And the way it was written as a black actor and a white actor, so it kind of necessitated that.
The characters are literally called black and white.
Right, they're named black and white.
I mean, I think McCarthy's making a point with those characters.
Yeah, and that the thing is that was part of the story is like a black and a white, like it had to be that way. But it still made me nervous to be like, man, I don't, because you and I have had this conversation 100 times about you don't want to just get called to be the black role, and here I am calling you like, hey Adam, what's up? I got a role for you that's literally named Black, and I was a nervous wreck.
That goes on to what I was saying earlier. Actually, there's directors who have called me for just those sorts of roles, and then there's somebody like Dane who's been like, Adam, you should go out for this role, and Adam, you should go out for that role. And they're not black characters. They're just characters that he thinks that I'd be good at. Years and years, we've had these conversations. So if he calls me saying, hey, I have a role for you, and it is based off of your race, but also your ability, I know that that is actually based off of my ability and the fact that the character you need an actual black person for that role. Mm-hmm. That's totally different than out of nowhere calling me to play a servant, but you've never seen me for anything other than that. Right. There's a difference too. There's nothing wrong with playing some of these roles that are distinct to races. I think more what we're trying to say is that there are roles that are not, the majority of them, and for some reason, an entire race is cut off for them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's too much.
Yeah. I was nervous though, man. I was like, oh man, I didn't want to make this. But like, I knew you had the skill set, and I knew you would be good in the role.
If you're not familiar with the piece, like, you need two amazing actors to pull it off, right? So I mean, that's like, I get exactly what you're saying, but like, like it's such an amazing role, like both of them. So
to even say the same thing. With that Tennessee Williams role, with that servant role, had Dane been the one that asked me for that role, and this is not about the whole we're being such close friends. This is about the way that he has perceived me in theater and interacted with me in theater throughout these years. Had Dane been the one that asked me for that role, I would have said, yeah, man, I'll do you that favor, first off, and play that role. But that's got nothing to do with, oh, I'm doing him a favor because he's my buddy. That's got to do with the fact that, again, he sees me as a person. Yeah, he casts me in roles, he puts me up for roles, he tells people about my acting ability, not just my race, not just the black roles I can do. We did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels together, and I played...
I've done it twice, it wasn't I did it with
I was magically in that show as well. I was one of the leads as well, you just didn't see me. No, we did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels as well, and I played the... Andre.
I played the French role that Dave
in that.
Love it.
Now, the director of that, should I say? Or?
Yeah.
The director was his sister. and I was going to help him build the set, actually. I was just like, I'm going to help him build the set. I'll come and do a quick audition, get a crappy role in it, so that, because I'm going to be there anyway. Now I go and I audition, and they gave me the part, which was one of the leads, and that happened because they gave me the part based off of the audition. Not anything else. Otherwise, they would have been like, black guy, French, you're not Haitian, no thank you. And that would have been that. And that blew me away. Like, we had conversations that day. I'm just like, how did this just happen? How did this one just happen? It was because it always depends on the people that are running it. And we need more people to think that way. Yeah. Like his sister thought, where I like that's the best one, and that's what it's going with. Not, oh, it's a French guy, I need a white guy for this. That's what we need. We need that sort of thinking.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because there are black French people. Like,
plenty.
There are black people who live in France. You know, like it's not so big of a stretch. You know what I mean? Like there are black people in the UK. I don't like shocker, right? People actually live there who are black, right? Idris Elba is from the UK. Yeah. Crazy.
Well, actually,
that's a lie.
Just like anecdotally, after falling in love with him on The Wire, when I found out he's from the UK, it was like, oh my God, he's British.
I was like, get the
I said, that guy's from Baltimore, right? He's got to be.
I watched The Wire.
He's slated. I was like, wow. Yep.
So this has nothing to do with anything really that we're talking about, but when you were Andre, we had somebody, WNEP came to the theater and did like a taste test.
That was just on again. That was amazing.
Yeah, they did some taste tests for like chocolate granola or something.
It was terrible.
And
it was so gross.
He refused to not do it in character.
That was amazing.
So it was just like I was trying it as
I didn't realize that at first. The accent was one of those things that I walked in the door and I just started doing. So it was like I was already in character. I thought we were all in costumes, so I thought we were all doing it.
So we were just doing it as ourselves, and then he does this entire thing with a French accent talking about this. It was just, I don't know, that was just a hilarious memory.
Not to single you out, but as the youngest person here, right? I mean, do you like, is there anything from your perspective that you want to add to the, being someone who's in college and who's setting forth into a career,
I mean, going off of like what you said, Jamil, I think it does start in the educational system. So like breaking down those, racial barriers and like adding those people in just because they are the best and not just saying like, oh, well, I need this person to fit this role exactly because that's how it's always been done. Mm-hmm. I think that it should go based on like your personality and exactly how you fit into the role as, the character and not just like the color of your skin. So that's pretty much just my opinion on that.
How much of the business is still, you need to be this, and this, or I'm not even going to look at you. Like regardless even of like the race thing, but like, you got to be
so tall.
If you're
so
tall,
skinny,
if you're
so
short,
whatever.
if you're fat, if you're, I mean, is
so
that,
long.
you guys have done professional stuff. Like, is that still the case? Is it still, and I will speak for one of my students at King's, who is an unbelievably talented actress, had put in to do the Straw Hat auditions, and she put on her resume her height and her weight, and she got an email back that said, we don't want to see you, because they didn't like the picture that painted of what her body looked like. And I was just appalled that's still happening. And so I guess it is still happening. I answered my question. So I guess what are some ways we can change these mentalities? I guess how do we get people to cast the way they should cast, or to overlook the stereotypes, right?
Well, I think what you were saying, even on the community level, is we need people who think like your sister, people who think outside of the box. If you are, because of, like, say you're auditioning in New York, because of the numbers, the sheer amount of people that they have to choose from, they could easily just, that's how I got the role that I got. I was exactly the same size and height and weight of the person that they were replacing. That is just them going, all right, carbon cutter, who fits this bill? That is all. They are replacing people. Seldom are they looking for people to originate roles. They are looking for the next thing that fits into the cookie cutter thing that they already put up there. So we need different stories. We need people who are willing to tell different stories, who are thinking of something new. I'm personally tired of seeing the same musicals over and over and over again. It's over and over and over again, and they just keep recycling the same thing. So it's a story that I've seen told before, and I know how they want to tell it. It's up to the casting directors. They are the people that are going, all right, we need to fill this order. Let's go. We need this, that, and pick this off the shelf. And they can, because they have a million people to choose from, and they can just go, that's one role. There's the other one. And that is how they do it. It is very much assembly line type things. And how do we change it? I think it's just people have to be willing to tell a different story and be the people making the decisions. Step out of your comfort zone. If you're used to being on stage, maybe you want to try and tell a story. Maybe you have something interesting to say. Maybe it will take off. It's just being in, like Hamilton quote, being in the room where it happens. Being in that room that makes the decisions about what story is going to be told and, what's interesting, what's new. That's what needs to happen. Different stories need to be told in different ways. So we need different people.
Absolutely, or even if you feel called to a play or a musical that's been done over and over and over again, what is the new imaginative way that you can do it? How can you spin it in a different way? I know actually where I got my MFA, I think a year or two before I got there, they actually did an all-black version of The Glass Menagerie. So it was something that I had never heard or never seen of before. And that was one of the big selling points for me for that school. It's like, wow, this is a school who's really trying to take this idea of using older plays and plays that have been done over and over and over again, and trying to find different ways of telling them. And just how great of a tool is that as an artist, you know? Like, you know, when you are an artist, you get to play with imagination. So it's like, why not stretch the imagination and really take these stories and really just run in the opposite direction with it and really just see how far you can take it. Like, that's just so fun and so fulfilling as an artist. And not only is that fun and fulfilling for the director and the people working on it, but it's also inspiring for the people who are watching it. So like, even like you, Leah, like the people who are getting their education to be able to see that there are companies, that there are theaters that are doing that, and that you can be a part of that. You can be a part of that culture that's really gonna take the society and take what's going on in the world and really flip it on its head. It's like, that's our job as artists. So I think just kind of doing what you're being called to do as an artist, I think is just a great first step, and really just take stuff and play with it and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
I think a debilitating thing around here is there's almost a fear on a community level around here of doing something too far outside the box, because all of these community theaters are barely keeping their doors open most of the time. So if I do this crazy thing and nobody comes and we lose money, are we going to be able to stay open? There's like that fear. And I think another thing around here is, and I'm including myself in this, a lot of us who do theater, even those of us who do a lot of theater, I don't have any kind of training or real knowledge. Like, what I've learned about theater, I've learned from doing theater around here. So I think there are other people around here who are in the similar situation where directing shows around here is almost, okay, you've been acting long enough, that's the next step, you just start directing. It's not necessarily that you have a strong interest in it or that you have training or experience or knowledge of what you're doing. It's just sort of, that's the next step. So as a result of that, I think you get a lot of directors who are afraid to think outside the box or incapable of thinking outside the box. So they're taking, like you said, carbon copies. They're pulling the stage production they've seen and they're just mounting it on a local stage. They're stealing the choreography, they're stealing the line readings, they're just taking everything and just doing their best to duplicate what they've already seen. So originality and artistry just goes right out the window because everyone's playing it safe and everyone wants to make sure that they're not going to do the thing that loses money or you know, and I think that that's damaging. And I would like to try to find a way, and I don't know how to do that because it's changing the DNA of community theater around here and of you know, audience goers. How do we get people around here to open up to that and to say, let's start seeking out new and inventive and creative and artistic theater instead of let's go see the same production of Fiddler on the Roof that we've seen staged 30 times over the last 30 years. You know, that's a hurdle, and I'm not sure the path to get over that, but I think that that's something that would include, you know, inclusivity and things like that will push us in that direction.
Well, yeah. Jamil and I have like the wonderful joy of working in educational theater, which, like, you know, we don't have to worry about that commercial aspect of things. You know? I mean, knock on wood, you know, who knows what's going to happen in the future with the college opening again or whatever, but like, you know, so we're trying to do that kind of stuff, right? And so, but I get what you're saying, like there's a real worry about keeping the doors open, right? And so maybe the change will be incremental, right? But like,
and is it just going to take a theater that's willing to do these things and people that are willing to come out and say like, okay, we've seen, you know, I feel like you know, shows like Sunset Limited last fall, things like that, bring people out and give them something they haven't seen 100 times, and you get positive feedback. So is the answer just keep doing more of that? Get more brave, local theaters. Get
braver.
Bring out your bravery. Let's do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're called to do as artists, you know, because I feel like art, like just being performers and being artists, we are called to, you know, really change it up. Like we're always constantly called to change it up. I think that's one of the reasons why I think everyone kind of gets into arts in the first place. Yeah. It's that sense of mystery. It's that sense of the unknown, right? I feel like any person who is an actor, who wants to be an actor, or even just doesn't acting for fun, I think does it because they have that deep within themselves. And that is really hard, and that is really scary to put yourself out there. But you have to realize at the end of the day, especially working with other artists, even just working with other artists, it's like we all have that same passion. We all have that one memory. We all have that one thing that made us want to do this. And that does come from somebody who was out there giving their all to this production or performance or directing or designing, you know, and like that's what inspired you to do it. So know that we all have that common seed. We all have that motivation.
Do you all have that one tangible thing that you're like, I'm gonna do this? Like, did you have that one thing that made you fall in love with?
When you fell in love with theater,
yeah.
I think everybody has that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I still haven't accomplished it yet.
But I mean, that made you fall in love with the idea of even doing it.
You had that moment where you're like, oh, this is awesome, right? And like maybe you can't pinpoint that one moment, right?
Oh,
but
yeah,
like,
no, I can.
Yeah, right, I think everybody has.
It was watching Jesus Christ Superstar. What is it, the 70s version? The one with the Black Judas.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I fell in love. I wanted to play that role. But again, this is when I was young and there weren't these same roles out there. So to me, that was the black role out there, which broke my heart every time I went for Judas and didn't get it. I was always so confused, like, but isn't this the one I'm supposed to get? Like, and that's part of the disconnect too, is I grew up thinking that was the role that I was supposed to get. So when I didn't get it, I also never went for any other character in there. I never went for Jesus. I was like, no, they're not gonna cast me as Jesus. I've gotta be the Judas in this or nothing. And that's one of the things that I'd love to change, that whole idea. I'd love to step on to, talk about what you had said about that beauty, the idea of beauty, and how do we change what it is? Like, is it, just you're this tall and you're this beautiful and you're this for the role? But I think that, like, if a director was to read what the character looks like, but close their eyes as they read it, say name Jenny is the name of the character, and you're reading it and it says she's tall, beautiful, rich. You open your eyes, if you saw a blonde white woman there, that might be a problem. You need to, it never said that. So your vision of beauty is different. We need to change that. If we start putting up more people that are different than that first idea of beauty, then all of a sudden that vision of beauty is different. Now when someone's thinking about what is beautiful, their first thought isn't tall, big breast blonde. Their first thought might be, whatever they think to be beautiful. And that changes what our vision of beauty is. It makes that wider and more broad. And now we have different women playing and different men playing these lead roles and these heartthrobs and these love interests, instead of just, the guy that looks like this and the woman that looks like that.